But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
In this video, we will talk about NASA and why they didn't win to moon after the first successful landing.
Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
Or why NASA never even made the effort to travel back. I find it to be a fascinating question. Simply strap some people to the front of a rocket and launch them into space seems like it would be simple enough. People want to know why NASA never went back to the moon after that momentous occasion, since conspiracy theories regarding the agency fabricating the lunar landings have recently gained traction. It's time to clear the air and explain why NASA never went back to the moon. It has nothing to do with extraterrestrials or covert space initiatives. The first man landing on the moon was an incredible accomplishment, therefore, with all of that said, we should give NASA credit where credit is due. Let's hope that another mission will be sent back up there at some point. This video focuses exclusively on the lunar program following the first lunar landing in 1969. We made the decision not to return to the moon for a number of reasons. I'll go into great length on each aspect of that here. Despite the fact that some continue to believe we never visited. It's time for you to look at the evidence with your own eyes and accept that you were mistaken if you still think the moon landing was a hoax and we never went. What are these few factors, then, that prevented us from returning? All will be revealed to you. Let's begin. Reasons for going to the moon. There are numerous factors that might be raised as to why NASA launched their first spacecraft. The same kinds of justifications might also be used to explain why they stopped conducting space research. I'll go over some of these factors and how they affect both sides. For instance, NASA opted to travel to space for a variety of reasons, but there were just as many reasons, if not more, for it to stop after only 6 trips. Many people today think it was evident from the start that we should have maintained our space research and gone farther than we did. But when we first began launching rockets into space, there was significant discussion about whether it was wise to invest so much money in something with such a high degree of uncertainty. Some even held the opinion that funds ought to have gone to other initiatives that would have provided higher returns, such healthcare or education. The proponents of space travel, however, believed that it was worthwhile to make an investment for a number of reasons. The most important explanation is due to what researchers discovered about our solar system through observation of space. They discovered a lot of information regarding solar radiation and gravity, which can teach us more about how the Earth functions. The knowledge we gain by venturing outside of Earth's atmosphere about ourselves is another factor. We discovered that when given the right direction, people can cooperate effectively enough to do incredible things. Astronauts weigh more on Earth than in space. An unknown fact about NASA astronauts, Newton's third law of motion. Basically, your foot pushes down while a reaction force pulling up on your foot is equal and opposite. Gravity pulls you back down to Earth if you jump in space, just as it does when you land on the ground. It would be necessary to utilize a gravity-altering device if NASA wanted astronauts to be able to move freely in space without having gravity push their feet into their bodies. NASA was forced to construct a massive elevator that carried astronauts from low Earth orbit, LEO, all the way to lunar orbit, since they were never able to create an anti-gravity device. NASA then had to construct a second enormous elevator to transport the astronauts back to LEO after they had entered lunar orbit. Then, in order to get them from LEO all the way back to the Earth's surface, NASA had to construct yet another enormous elevator. If NASA had tried to send astronauts back to the moon before developing a means for them to return safely, many lives may have been lost and we still wouldn't know what makes up our solar system. Fortunately, we now understand the significance of weightlessness in space exploration and travel. We are able to build rovers that can investigate other planets while keeping us safe on Earth, as well as spacesuits that can shield us from dangerous environments while allowing us to roam around freely. Outer space has zero gravity. NASA astronauts run a considerably larger risk of floating away into space if they aren't tethered to anything, since gravitational forces are weaker in space than they are on Earth. NASA mandates that all objects must weigh at least twice as much in space as they do on Earth in order to keep personnel on solid ground. If not, there wouldn't be enough gravity to keep everything in their proper places. This rule is applicable to astronauts as well as to tools and equipment. NASA never went back to the moon because of this. The astronauts' spacesuits would have made it far too difficult for them to walk around freely. The ability to examine moon rocks without an astronaut present to gather them and bring them back to Earth safely would have also been exceedingly difficult for scientists and engineers on Earth. Numerous lives could have been lost, and we still wouldn't know much about the composition of our solar system if NASA had tried to send people back to the moon before developing a safe mechanism for them to do so. Thankfully, we now comprehend the significance of weightlessness in space exploration and travel. We can build rovers that can investigate other planets while keeping us safe on Earth, and we can construct spacesuits that can protect us from dangerous environments while allowing us to roam around freely. How did astronauts walk on the moon when they couldn't even stand up? Contrary to popular belief, standing up while on the moon wasn't particularly difficult for astronauts. In actuality, they did so easily. They had little trouble performing basic duties on Earth before they abandoned their spacesuits at home. This is due to the fact that astronauts' bodies became confused about where to transfer bodily fluids when their spacesuit's lower body negative pressure (LBNP) system was absent. LBNP helped force biological fluids towards the astronauts' heads and legs. Their hearts had to work much harder than normal as blood flowed down into their feet when they stood up in Earth's gravity after being exposed to microgravity for a prolonged length of time. They felt dizzy and lightheaded because there wasn't enough capacity in their chest cavity for all that excess blood, which accumulated in one or both lower extremities. The first few days after returning to Earth, astronauts also mentioned feeling more exhausted than usual. People are interested in the universe and where they fit within it. People were excited when we launched astronauts into space and then successfully landed them on another celestial body. People were thrilled about a brand new mode of transportation that would let us travel further than ever before. They also wanted to know where we were headed next, but there was no justification for us to come back. At least, that is what some experts think. According to some, America's decision to send a man to the moon was motivated by Cold War rivalry with Russia, not scientific curiosity or national pride. Conclusion. Over time, NASA came to the conclusion that concentrating its efforts and resources on investigating other planetary systems would be far more effective. They came to the conclusion that sending people back to Earth's natural satellite was simply not worth their time or money due to a tight budget and an expanding list of missions to complete. Instead, they concentrated on developing space stations in Earth's orbit so that researchers could study our world from above without ever leaving the comfort of their homes. It's crucial to keep in mind that for the majority of human history, people were not even considering leaving our planet, despite the fact that it may be frustrating that we never went back to the moon. We were too preoccupied with eking out an existence here. Space exploration did not become a top priority until after World War II, and even then, it was decades before anyone was actually transported outside of Earth orbit. What do you think of our video? Please tell me in the comments section below. Before you go, like this video and want to see more from me. Thank you for watching.